So we're going to connect a custom domain to our ClickFunnels account. There's a couple different ways we can do this. You'll see here, if we don't have a domain connected to a funnel specifically, it'll show up on what's called our ClickFunnels subdomain. You see that right here. So my subdomain for my account is set to funnel chats. You can always change this to something else if you want to, but it'll always have clickfunnels.com after that. So if you ever were okay with just having that, you would go into your account settings, and then right here under ClickFunnels subdomain, you click expand, and you can try to change it to something else. If someone else is already using it in a different account, it won't let you change it. But we want our funnels to show up on, say, like funnelchats.com or funnelchats.net or any other domain other than this ClickFunnels subdomain. It's a great idea, especially if you want to take advantage of all of the features that ClickFunnels has to offer, right? So we're going to need this not only to like get the pages in our funnel to show up on the domain that we want, but we'll also need a custom domain if we want to create a custom email address, which we'll also need if we want to create an SMTP integration so that we can send emails directly from ClickFunnels. Also need it for our payment gateway as well. So we need it to do a lot of the little technical pieces to allow you to build a really, really good and powerful funnel. So this is where I recommend everyone start first. So there's a couple ways we can do it now. Over the last couple of years, ClickFunnels has made some really big improvements to make this easier for you. So one of the easy ways that they've set up for you now is you can actually register your domain right through ClickFunnels. So to do that, you just come into your same account settings we just got to. On the left over here, click on domains. Then you're going to add a new domain. And then instead of adding your own, you're going to register your domain right here through ClickFunnels. You just search for the domain you want. It'll tell you all the ones that are available right now. Just select the one you want to purchase and you'll see it costs you $20. So you just select it and then it'll prompt you to pay for it. Right here. This is a super easy way. I already have one purchased in my account. After you go through the step there to actually purchase it, it'll add it right into your domain list. And if you have one that you've purchased through ClickFunnels, you can just click on the domain to get into the settings. And then this is going to come into play later, but you'll see if you come down here, you can edit your zone records right here. So you can add all kinds of zone records right here, right inside of ClickFunnels. If you ever need to add a CNAME record, maybe create a subdomain of this domain, or TXT and MX records for creating your custom email address, you can do that all right here inside of ClickFunnels. It's really, really nice because it just allows you to have everything in one place. Now, the way I'm going to do it, I actually recommend doing it through something called CloudFlare. Gives us a little more flexibility, a little more control over our domain. So what I've actually done is I've purchased a domain through GoDaddy. There's lots of places you can register domains these days. I just happened to purchase mine through GoDaddy. There's other ones like Namecheap, all kinds of different ones. No matter where you purchase your domain, you should be able to manage the DNS records of that domain. So here's a domain I purchased in GoDaddy. Scroll down here. You should be able to find somewhere where we can manage the DNS. So I have that option right at the bottom here. Click it here, you'll see I can control, these are all the records for this domain right now. So I actually had this connected to ClickFunnels before and I pointed it right to ClickFunnels. So there are ways to do that, but I recommend first pointing your domain to a service called CloudFlare. If you go to cloudflare.com, I posted the link below this video inside of the membership area. Once you get in there, you'll get to this first homepage. What we're going to do is add this domain to our homepage. So I'm going to click here on Add Site. And here I'm going to enter the domain. So this one is selfdefenselife.com. Copy that and paste it right into here. I'm going to click on Add Site. So it's just cloudflare.com. Then we can select a plan here. The only one I need right now is the free one. Doubt you'll ever need anything more than that. Then it's going to scan the internets and find any existing records for this domain. So it's basically just pulling the records that I've already added right here. And we're going to change some of these, but for right now, I'm just going to click on continue. Then we have a couple options here. What I'm going to do is just use the default method. Once we've selected the default method, it's going to tell us the name server records we need to add into GoDaddy inside of our DNS manager. So what we're essentially about to do is say, hey, instead of managing these DNS records here inside of GoDaddy, we're going to forward them by changing our name servers to CloudFlare so that we can manage them here. The reason why I like to do this in CloudFlare is it's going to give us a lot more control over our domain. We can set up some really cool page forwarding rules. I'm pretty sure ClickFunnels is working on something to do something like this with a domain if you've purchased it right inside of ClickFunnels. If you were in the settings, you would have seen like a forwarding section there, but at least so far I haven't been able to get that to quite work. So I'm going to do it right here inside of GoDaddy. CloudFlare. CloudFlare gives us SSL protection, so it encrypts all of our pages and protects us from like DDoS accounts. And it's going to allow us to set up some really cool forwarding rules. So just stick with me, it'll all make sense here once we're done. So inside of CloudFlare right now, it's telling me to replace my name servers with CloudFlare's name servers. So what we're going to do is copy these name server records. And inside of GoDaddy, in the name server section, we're going to change the name servers. Then we're going to select here, enter my own name servers, and paste the first one here into name server 1. Then come back to CloudFlare, grab name server 2, copy that, and paste it into name server 2 inside of GoDaddy. Then we're just going to click save right here. Now, it's going to save here, and eventually that'll go through, and we won't even see our DNS records here inside of GoDaddy. So just give that a moment, and then these will disappear, and it's going to forward them to where we want them to go. So it can take a few minutes for that to update. Meanwhile, inside of CloudFlare, we're going to say done, check name servers. Scroll down here. Going to ask us what type of encryption we want to use here. I'm just going to leave it set to what it is by default here on full. And we're not going to touch any of this auto minify stuff. That can actually, I've seen that cause some issues in the past. I'm just going to leave everything here set to what it is by default and click on done. And so now we just pretty much need to wait a little bit. It's going to take a little bit for this to all process inside of GoDaddy, and then for it to also register inside of CloudFlare. You can see now I can't edit my DNS records here anymore inside of GoDaddy. That's because we forward them over to CloudFlare. CloudFlare, we just need to wait a little bit for it to actually verify. So what I'm going to do in the meantime, while we're waiting for that, we can actually set up our DNS records while we're waiting. So what we're going to do is click over here on DNS. And what I'm going to do is add some records into here. First thing I want to do is point the root of my domain, so selfdefenselife.com. I want to point that at ClickFunnels. By default, you'll usually have an A record pointing it to an IP address. ClickFunnels doesn't have a public IP address like this, so we need to use a CNAME record to point the root of our domain at ClickFunnels. That's another reason why we're using CloudFlare, is it's one of the few DNS managers that'll actually allow us to do something called CNAME flattening that'll allow us to point our root of our domain through a CNAME record. If that doesn't make sense, don't worry. If you just follow along here, it'll all work out. So I'm going to delete this record. Also going to delete a couple other ones on here as well. This one right here where it says test, it's pointed to target.clickfunnels.com, and www, it's pointed to target.clickfunnels.com. You won't have those. That's just because I've used this domain with ClickFunnels in the past for some of my previous training videos I've done in the past. Okay, so with those records gone, I'm going to click here on add record. And we're going to select a CNAME record. Then here we can either type in the root of our domain. So I could type in selfdefenselife.com, or I could just put in an @ symbol, and that @ symbol will represent the root of my domain, which is selfdefenselife.com. And then in the target field here, I'm just choosing where I want to point this domain. So I'm going to set that to target.clickfunnels.com. Then I'm just going to click here on save, and that record's in here. So now selfdefenselife.com is pointed to target.clickfunnels.com. So that'll allow us to make that connection when later we go and add the domain into our ClickFunnels account. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to point www.selfdefenselife.com back at just selfdefenselife.com. That way, if anyone ever went to www.selfdefenselife.com, it would just redirect that URL to selfdefenselife.com without anything in front of it. Some people still use www. a lot. So for that, I'm going to take a CNAME record. In the name field, I'm just going to put in www, and then the target here is just going to be the root of my domain. So I can just paste that in here. So anytime someone goes to the URL with www in front of it, they're just going to go to the URL without it. We'll save that as well. So that's all I need to do here. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go up to page rules, which is right here. I'm going to set up a few page rules. This is one of the things I really like about using CloudFlare. So I can set up page rules to say, and I'll just show you my address bar up here as an example. So we've already set it up. If someone typed in www.selfdefenselife.com, what's going to happen is when they hit enter, it's going to redirect to just selfdefenselife.com. But what if someone put in www.selfdefenselife.com/home? Let's just say I had a page set to /home. What I want to happen is if someone does that is for it to redirect to selfdefenselife.com/home without www. in front of it. So if we were just pointing our domain at ClickFunnels the regular way, or if we purchased it through ClickFunnels, we actually wouldn't be able to set up a redirect rule. And sometimes it can make some weird things happen when people try to visit specific URLs. What we can do is set up a rule to say, hey, anytime someone enters www.selfdefenselife.com/anything in this field, it'll redirect to the same ending path and domain without www. So we have that set up. No matter what someone types in, as long as it's a correct URL for one of our pages, it'll always function properly. So what we're going to do is create a page rule here. And in this field, we're going to type in www.selfdefenselife.com /**. So this asterisk is a wildcard. This means it doesn't matter what someone puts at the end of this URL. The rule we're about to set up is going to match whatever they typed in. Then the setting here we're going to pick is forwarding URL. The status is going to be 301 permanent redirect. Then in here what we're going to type in is https://selfdefenselife.com $1. I just want to make sure I have everything spelled correctly, so I'm actually just going to paste this in here just to be sure. I should have pasted that to begin with. So make sure everything's spelled correctly here, and then just hit save and deploy. And now we have our forwarding rule set up. So anytime someone goes to www.selfdefenselife.com /anything, so it could be home, it's going to take them to HTTPS, so the encrypted version of the page, with out www, selfdefenselife.com / and this $1 just means it's going to match whatever was put over here. So that's pretty much it. Now what we can do is go back to our overview. We can click here on recheck now. It hasn't gone through quite yet, so all we have to do is keep waiting a little bit. In the meantime, while we're waiting, we can start setting things up inside of ClickFunnels. So inside of ClickFunnels, I'm going to click here on add new domain. And now instead of registering it right through ClickFunnels, I'm going to go over here to add your own domain. And here we're going to erase this www. We're going to put in just the root of the domain, just selfdefenselife.com. Then I'm going to click here on add domain. Now, here it's telling us to make sure we enter that CNAME record, pointing it to target.clickfunnels.com. We've already done that, so we're going to click I've done this step. Hey, it says it's connected. So that means that our name servers here probably went through. Yep, so if I refresh here, you can see great news. CloudFlare is now protecting your website. So boom, we have our security and we have our page rules set up as well. Now we just need to connect this to a funnel inside of our ClickFunnels account. So we just choose the one we want to use. I'm going to use this copy of best-selling book funnel and associate my funnel. Now it'll show up in our list of domains. You'll see there's a little lock symbol here and it's unlocked. What I want to do is make sure that turns green. So it just needs to that just means that our SSL encryption that Cloudflare is giving us, ClickFunnels just hasn't been able to verify that it's actually encrypted yet. Without encryption, we're not allowed to use our domain on like order form pages or any pages where we're collecting sensitive information. So we're going to come over to this little hamburger to the right here. We're going to click on edit. And then right here where it says SSL, we're going to click expand here. We're going to click on add SSL. Now it doesn't always go through right away. See, it says we've initialized the setup process. It could take up to 10 to 15 minutes before it goes through. So all you need to do is wait a little bit, click on expand again, then click here on check now. Sometimes it's really quick, sometimes it takes a little bit. So it's still waiting. So I'm just going to pause here. We'll wait a couple minutes. Okay, so I waited a couple minutes and let's try again. Click expand, check now. And there we go. Success. So now if we go back to our domains list and find that domain, now it has that green lock on it. So now what we need to do is just check the funnel that we associated it with. If we ever wanted to change the funnel that someone gets taken to if they go to your domain, it's just right here under default page, click expand. You can change that to the URL of whichever page you want them to go to. Let's go back to our list of funnels here. Here's the funnel I'm using. You'll see it says selfdefenselife.com and it has HTTPS in front of it. That means that we have encryption, so pages like order forms will work for us. And if we go into the settings of this domain, see it's set to selfdefenselife.com. You can always come in here and switch it to any domain that you want to use. So then the other thing you might want to take into consideration is the ending path. If we actually go to selfdefenselife.com right now, so I'm going to do this in an incognito window. See, it takes me to this page. It says selfdefenselife.com / opt-in 166, bunch of numbers, right? If I want to change what shows up here for a page inside of the browser, all I need to do is come into the settings gear right here under my page preview and then change that path. So we'll say, just call this funnel chats home. Update this. And now if someone goes to that same page, email chats home. Now we also had that page rule set up, remember? So you can test a couple things here. If someone goes to www.selfdefenselife.com, so he takes them to the root of my domain without www in front of it. The other thing is, what if someone went to www.selfdefenselife.com/ an ending path of a specific page? See, it redirects to that same page, but without www in front of it. So there you have it. That's how I would set that all up. We're going to use this domain to set up a few other things in the lessons to come. And that's it for this one. Thanks, everybody.